Hello, and welcome to Codely Studio Tutorials. In this video, we will introduce permissions in the model editor. The model editor allows us to view the structure of our data model. We can use this view to configure permissions on privileges in a new fashion. Let me show you how. First, let's have a look at the Roles and Privileges editor. We can see here the list of privileges that we have created beforehand. Currently, we have not made any configurations, as we will do so in the model editor. In the model editor, we can see the new section Permissions in the right panel. We can use this section to grant permissions to privileges. This section is available for all resources in the model editor. It displays the possible permissions that we can configure based on the type of the selected resource. Let's start by configuring the privilege None to have the read permission on the whole model. Let's click on the canvas to select the model or data store as our current resource. We can see that we have a couple of permissions that we can assign. Let's click on the field next to the permission Read. A list of available privileges will be displayed. Now we can select the privilege None from the list to grant it this permission. We can grant this permission to multiple privileges by selecting different items from the drop-down list. In case there isn't much space, a number will show in the field indicating the number of privileges assigned, but not shown. We can click the field again to view the full list. We can verify that we have successfully configured this permission on the privilege None by going back to the Roles and Privileges editor. If we select the privilege None, we can see that we have effectively set the permission Read on Data Store for the privilege None. In the next step, we will configure one of our data classes. Let's go back to the model editor to complete our configuration. We will be using the data class Patient. In the permissions section, you will notice that the privilege None has been automatically assigned to the permission Read with a dark background. This is due to inheritance. Data classes will automatically inherit the configuration of the data store unless configured explicitly. Let's go ahead and change that. From the drop-down list, we will choose the privilege Read Patient to be granted the read permission on the data class. Explicitly assigning a privilege to permission for a data class will automatically override any configuration inherited from the data source for that particular permission. Therefore, we can no longer see the privilege None with dark background. So far, everyone who has the privilege Read Patient will have read access to the entire data class. Now, let's say we want to require additional privileges to access a particular attribute in the data class. Confidential info attribute, for example. Just like data classes, selecting a privilege from the drop-down list will grant the privilege the said permission on the attribute. Let's grant the privilege Read Full Patient the read permission on the attribute Confidential Info by selecting it from the drop-down list. After successfully granted the Read Full Patient permission, you may have noticed this icon on the left side of the field. This icon signifies that in order to have read permission on this attribute, both privileges Read Patient and Read Full Patient are required. Let's go back to the Roles and Privileges editor to view our configuration. We can take a look at the privileges we have configured to confirm that everything was set correctly. Finally, we can also configure permissions for methods by selecting a method and following the same process. Let's make sure that we are not going to lose our configuration by clicking the Save All button. That's it for today's tutorial. To recap, in this tutorial we have introduced the section for permissions in the model editor and how we can use it to grant permissions for privileges on different resources in our data model.
Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.